Hello friends, David here from Beyond the Kingdoms, and it's time for this year's review of Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party at the Magic Kingdom. Before we get into today's review, I just want to quickly add that there's now a new way to support the channel. You can now visit the official Beyond the Kingdoms online store. Throughout the month, new items will be added, and every purchase you make will help the channel grow to new heights. So make sure you check it out today. But without further ado, let's jump right into my review. First up, I want to confirm a few details that were not released when this year's guide episode went up last week. Let's first talk characters. For the most part, almost all of the character locations and offerings remain the same this year, with two notable changes. First of all, Mary Poppins and Bert have moved from Fantasyland to the Liberty Square gazebo. And the second change is a biggie. Jack Skellington, dressed as Sandy Claus, has moved to Town Square Theater on Main Street, and for the first time for the holidays, Sally has joined him. This has dramatically altered his popularity, but I'll get more into that a little bit later. While we're on the subject of characters, I want to talk about wait times a little bit, and what I experienced from the party. First of all, as you all know by now, Moana, the Seven Dwarfs, and Jack and Sally remain to be the most popular characters to meet at the parties. At Mickey's Very Merry, the princesses joined by the princes is also pretty popular, as well as Scrooge and Donald. Now, at around 4:20, I passed through Adventureland to scope out the character situation, and a line had not yet formed to meet Moana. I can say that around this time during the Halloween party, a sprinkle of guests were already lined up. I suspect that this subtle decrease at Moana is because of Jack's move. I went into Town Square Theater at 4:50 p.m. and the line was longer than I've ever seen. A cast member informed me that the wait time was already at 2 hours, and that Jack and Sally began meeting guests at 4:30. Now, that is always subject to change, but I can confirm that this was true on both the first and second night of the party. I quickly decided that it wasn't worth my time, so I moved to Storybook Circus to check out the Seven Dwarfs situation. And to my surprise, at 5 p.m., there were only about 10 groups in line. And since a cast member confirmed that they would be coming out at 6:15, I decided to join the line. When they came out at 6:15, the entire tent was full. But I was out by 6:40 and I was told that the wait time was already at 2 hours. After leaving Pete's Silly Sideshow, I noted Scrooge and Donald's line, which wrapped around the outer rim of Casey Jr. Now, these guys, like most characters, didn't come out until 7 p.m. And if you got in line at the start of the party, you would probably wait an hour to see them. The same was true to meet princesses with their princes over in Fantasyland. At 7:10 p.m., I was told that the wait to meet Snow White with her prince, along with Aurora and Prince Philip, was already at an hour. However, I will say that during the first parade, their line dropped in half and was only about 30 minutes long, but it picked up again after that. The second item on my confirmation list is cookie stations. Similar to characters, almost all of the cookie stations remained the same this year. There were only two minor changes. First of all, Storybook Circus continues to offer the delicious Peppermint Crunch cookies. But no Nesquik this year. In fact, they had no beverages at this station at all. Secondly, Auntie Gravity's Galactic Goodies changed out their Santa sugar cookies for chocolate chip instead this year. Other than that, everything else is the same. If you want a full rundown on practical details for the party, check out my full guide. In it, you'll get all the locations for characters, cookies, and showtimes for all the major entertainment offerings. Now let's move on to my actual experience and thoughts on this year's party. A list of pros and cons, and I want to get the negative stuff out of the way first. Now we all know by now that the parties continue to be popular and the pricing continues to rise. However, it seems that Mickey's Very Merry is more likely to have sellout nights this year than the Halloween party. For 2018, Not So Scary offered a total of 34 nights, a wider range of pricing, and only sold out on 5 occasions. Whereas Mickey's Very Merry is only offered on 22 nights. That's 12 nights less than the Halloween party. Therefore, there are less dates for guests to choose from. And this year, both the first and second night sold out on the date of the event. Now, I went to the Halloween party twice this year, and both nights were not sold out. Whereas when I went to Very Merry, it was. And I could definitely feel the difference of a sold out night. The lines to meet characters were much longer here than at Halloween. If you went to any of these parties, let's say 10 years ago, it certainly doesn't feel as exclusive and intimate as it used to. However, I must say that even a sold out night is way better than visiting Magic Kingdom the week of Christmas and New Year's, where the park is absolutely packed. That's the main reason I still enjoy attending this party. Secondly, I want to discuss the Jack and Sally situation. I'm pretty torn about how I feel about this move. I can see how on paper this seemed like a good idea. Placing these characters at Town Square Theater means that, like the other 2 more popular meet and greets, the line can be indoors and, in this case, air conditioning. This makes waiting in line way more pleasant. However, bumping him back to the very front of the park seems to encourage even more guests to meet him. I understand that to compensate, Disney has decided to bring them out extremely early at 4:30. But after noticing the Seven Dwarfs line to be much shorter than usual at 5, I suspect everyone is going to Jack and Sally. I just think it was unwise to not only move them to the front of the park, but also to add Sally and have them come out at 4:30. I think Disney should have tested the move first before adding Sally, just to gauge the crowds. I think the only way you can meet them early and not waste too much valuable party time is to arrive at the gate of the park around 3 p.m. That way you're at the front of the pack. So I think Jack has become a bigger challenge than before. My third and final negative note is on cookie stations. Cookie stations seem to be extremely crowded right at the start of the party, especially in Fantasyland. So I've come to the conclusion that it might be time for Disney to add a few more locations. By comparison, at the Halloween party, I think candy trails work smoother. Cast members can toss some candy in bags and move on. The simple nature of it is way faster than passing out cookies and drinks. So my advice here is to delay grabbing cookies until after the party gets going. Once 8 p.m. rolls around and major entertainment begins, crowds thin out and move around, and cookie stations become much easier to navigate through. But let's now look at some of the good things I noticed at this year's party. And while we're on the subject of cookies, I actually really like the choice Disney made to have them individually wrapped. I must admit, it completely goes against Disney's push to reduce the use of single-use plastic. But I can't help but noting some of the good sides to it. First of all, I imagine that it's much more sanitary. I used to worry a little bit seeing those huge crates of cookies out in the open. And to my surprise, the cookies still taste just as fresh as before. If you're like me and like to pace the sugar intake, you can now grab cookies periodically throughout the night and save them for later in a bag. I still enjoy trick-or-treating a little bit more at Halloween because I stock up on loads of candy and enjoy it for several weeks at home. But this subtle change with the cookies is an improvement in my book. You can judge me for approving the choice of using more single-use plastic, but in this case, I did see some benefits. Second, despite more tickets being sold to this event than in previous years, the wait times for rides continued to be very low. I took more note on attraction wait times this time around because I get a lot of questions about it. Throughout the night, I noticed only 2 attractions reaching a 30-minute wait: Peter Pan's Flight and Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. Everything else was 15 minutes or less. Peter Pan even dipped down to 20 minutes during the first parade. Even while running around the whole park shooting video and reviewing things, I still managed to get on Mad Tea Party, People Mover, Haunted Mansion, Splash Mountain, and Big Thunder. All on top of seeing the parade, fireworks, and stage show, cookie stations, and trying out some specialty treats. I reckon I could have done maybe 1 or 2 more rides if I wasn't filming. So getting to just walk right onto rides is a great aspect of the party still. And finally, I want to mention the entertainment. Even though all the entertainment has stayed the same this year, I must admit that I still thoroughly enjoy all the offerings at this party. I've learned that Tomorrowland is a great place to be towards the end of the night because there's a lot going on. Between Totally Tomorrowland Christmas and Club Tinsel, there's lots of action to see here. I also want to give a shout out to the performers in Mickey's Most Merriest Celebration because it is a fast-paced, high-energy show and these guys really deliver. It was extremely hot for early November, and that did not stop these performers from giving you anything but 200%. I know it's not easy, and I definitely want to salute you guys. And the same goes for all the performers in the parade. I want to end this review by saying that Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas Time parade is still fantastic. I've seen this parade dozens of times, and it still puts a smile on my face. So, final thoughts. On paper, I still think that the Halloween party has a slight edge, mostly because you're less likely to get a sold-out night, candy trails work more smoothly than cookie stations, and the idea that you get to dress up in costume to meet characters is special. But this year, I seem to enjoy Mickey's Very Merry a little bit more, and it's because I simply love the holidays at Disney. And many years ago, I stopped going to the parks the week of Christmas because it is just too much for me to handle. So this party is the best alternative to that. I went into this early November, nowhere near ready for the holidays, and I left with classic songs stuck in my head, and I am not complaining about it. However, I must say that if you attend this event, you must know your stuff and have a plan. If you're not a planner, just know what to expect. That way you have some good knowledge in your back pocket. I can see that if you go into this casually and don't know what to expect, you'll be floored when you see 2-hour lines for characters and herds of people scrummaging for free cookies. But since I've done this several times, I've noted a specific pattern that will ensure you have a good time still. Arrive early. Absolutely take advantage that you can enter at 4 p.m. If you enter the park at 7, you're already a major step behind everyone else. Use that 4 to 7 p.m. time to go through the Main Street bypass so you can take some pictures and grab your first cookie. Then you have 2 options. If characters are not a huge priority, enjoy some of the rides that are not hugely popular. Do easy stuff. Then line up for a character no later than 6:30, if it's not a biggie. If you want to do someone popular, after that Main Street bypass, go directly to that character. If you're like me, you can be one of the first in line to meet someone popular and be out before the party officially begins. Use that 7 to 8 p.m. to do rides while everyone else makes a beeline to cookies. Then, during the first parade between 8 and 9, do some of your cookie stations and maybe check out other moderately popular characters. Then do all of the later showings of the major entertainment. Watch the second parade and the last stage show. So there you have it, my friends, my full review of this year's Very Merry Christmas Party at the Magic Kingdom. If you're headed to this event for the holiday season, stay tuned for my top 10 tips and my food review of the best specialty treats to enjoy, all coming up later this week. And until next time, remember, if you can dream it, you can do it.